done.
This is the Deron Harris Podcast. Here's your host, Deron Harris.
Hey folks, what's up? How you feeling this week, man? I've been trying to do this goddamn podcast now for a while today, man, and it's just been trying to not work out. You ever feel like the forces in the universe are working against you? Well, I've been feeling like that as of lately. I've been trying to hold it in. I've been trying to stay positive, but as of late, I've been feeling like the world is just, closing in. I've been without a therapist for a few weeks now. I'm in the process of finding another therapist. And I gotta say, man, it's therapy. Therapy works. I'm just gonna put it like that. Therapy works. I find myself now lately in a state of, like, a constant state of restlessness. I'm just always fidgety. I'm back to, I had been sleeping well for a while, but I'm back to, kind of half-ass sleeping. Sleeping a few hours a night, going to bed late, waking up early. People call it burning the candle at both ends, and that's not really healthy. You're supposed to get you're supposed to get adequate rest. It matters, and I'm having problems sleeping and focusing and relaxing. My wife helps me tremendously, but there's so much pressure. I just feel so much pressure lately. And things that I'm seeing in the news, the presidential election, everything, all that news, Diddy, et cetera, all that stuff is kind of leaning on me. And this podcast kind of helps me talk through that. So when I don't have a therapist, you folks become my therapist. I do appreciate it, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. It's not easy. I suffer from major depressive disorder and extreme anxiety, and I have been feeling that lately. I smile through it and try to shrug it off, but it's difficult. I feel like I can't win. Like I said, I've been trying to record this podcast now for 2 hours, 3 hours. Keep having to start and restop. Always some sort of distraction in the way. Things that just frustrate you and put you in a state of mind where you're angry and you're frustrated. You feel like you want to throw shit. But I remember something. And what that is I remember when I used to get angry. I would be angry for like weeks, and I'd want to do myself and other people like bodily harm, physical harm. I remember that. But it came a time when I said to myself, hey man, you're going to have to turn in on yourself. You're going to have to turn in on yourself and try and figure out how to get by, these times when you're feeling like this. And how are you going to do this? How are you going to come up on this? How are you going to How are you going to get better? And I remembered that I used to listen to this program by Anthony Robbins called Get the Edge. And I started going through some of those principles. There's one particular tape that he has called Relationships. And it basically tells you about relationships with the people around you, your romantic relationships, relationships with your boss, et cetera, et cetera. But what I did is I started trying to apply those things to myself so that I could create a good relationship with myself. Because I don't know if I don't know if a lot of us have a good relationship with ourselves. Do you like yourself? I think a lot of us don't really think about it or have a really hard time answering that question. And sometimes, I got to tell you, sometimes I don't like myself. Sometimes I don't. I never hate myself. That's one thing. Now, I've been there before. And I've sworn that, before I get there again, I will reach out and get help from whoever I need it from. But, I've been there. I've been all the way down. I've come back from so many things, so many obstacles that have posed themselves to me, and so many deterrents. So many things trying to put themselves or put itself in my way. Something that's always trying to steal my joy or take my peace. People like me often feel overwhelmed by little things because all the little things, they stack up, and it feels like they never go away, and they're always there, they're always present. It's like a bunch of mosquitoes, and they're always there, and you're always swatting, and you're trying to do your work, and they're always in your ear, and they're always biting you. That's what life feels like a lot. You guys might hear a bell in the background from time to time. I got a cat. My wife, there was this little kitten living under the motorhome, and my wife decided that she wanted to try to have a cat. So we got this kitten. So if you hear this bell in the background, that's the little kitty that we call Cookie. And Cookie helps. Cookie definitely helps. My dogs, they help also. But the new cat, the cat helps. The cat helps with depression. Cat always wants to play. Cat always keeps you on your toes. So I'm thankful for my wife going out and getting this cat. Now, my wife, on the other hand, now she loved this cat a couple of days ago, and now she not so sure because she's never had a cat, and she doesn't understand that sometimes cats might claw you or hunt you as they do. But I do see her warming up to the cat, and the cat warming up to her also. So she's coming around to it, which is good. How can we be okay? People who suffer from depression, people who are suffering from this condition, you can feel it when you can feel it, when you can almost tell when the bottom is about to fall out of shit. When you can almost, how do you get in front of it before it happens? I have a lot of problems with focus. I have a lot of problems with focusing on something long enough to complete it. Major problems. Certain things I can, There's a lot of things I can't. I'm just, my brain is all over the place. But how do you deal with that on a daily basis? Because that also fuels the uncertainty. Is your mind just jumping around from place to place to place, never really landing on anything for too long? And then you're off to some other thought. You can't get your thoughts together. And before you know it, all this time has passed. Deadlines have passed. You've missed bills, et cetera, which puts you further in the hole, by the way. How do you deal with it? How do you put it away? Because it's never going to go away. And that is depressing in itself. That's depressing in itself. Major depressive disorder does not go away. I got this forever. This is how I'm going to go through this forever. And I take medication now. And it's helpful sometimes. Sometimes it's not very helpful. And I know it's going to be a bad day when I'm not really, I just feel, sometimes I feel irritated. I'm just irritated. Like just short-tempered, just very, and that's really not who I am. And a lot of that comes from me being frustrated, infinitely frustrated, perpetually frustrated. I'm frustrated all the time. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? How do you say, I'm going to tackle this head on, and then have the focus to see that through when you don't have any focus? This is a very somber podcast, folks, by the way. But like I said, man, this is for me. I'm in the process of looking for a new therapist, but until then, this is it. This is talk therapy for me. This is talk therapy for me because it helps me get out the things that are upsetting me, or just that are just taking me off my axis. You know what I mean? I have a lot of friends. I was a comedian for a long time. And I have a lot of friends that I see that are being on their way to being, very successful. A couple friends that are extremely successful, made it from the bottom, and now they're extremely successful. And doing television and film and things of that nature, and things that I've always aspired to do and was very close to. And I think about that all the time. Now, I'm not envious or jealous of my friends in any way. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. I'm extremely proud that they have succeeded. But I turn the mirror around on myself, and I'm that person that got left behind. That's what I feel like sometimes. But I got to understand that that's not it. That is not it. I've got to understand that I can still create whatever opportunity for myself that I want. It does require a large amount of focus. I cannot front, folks. And I take a medicine, which I'm out of right now, which I have to get. I take a medicine to help me with focus, to help me focus. And I wish I didn't have to. I wish I didn't have to take this medicine, but I do take it to help me focus. Because if you can't focus, then you can't you can't get treated. You can't get yourself treated because you're always in a constant state of cloudiness. You're always cloudy. Your thoughts just leave your head as soon as they come into your head. Things are always perpetually on the tip of your tongue. You start feeling stupid. But you have to remember, I have to remember that is not the case. I am not stupid. I'm not stupid. And I cannot beat myself up. Because when you start beating yourself up, that's when you put yourself into this depressive state. When you continuously look at everything negative, I don't care what, everything negative that hits you in the face. I don't care what it is. Everything negative that hits you in the face. You gotta think that that there are things in your life that can pull you out of this. There are things in your life that you can focus on to pull you out of this depressive state, to help you fight this depressive state. I make music. As a matter of fact, I do a lot of different things. I do a lot of different stuff. And that's part of the problem also, as I can't focus on any one thing, so I have lots of different things to circumvent all these other things that I do. It's just because I can't focus on anything, any one thing, any one task. I got 10,000 songs that I haven't finished. And I got 10,000 jokes that I haven't performed or done. I have to remember that the only obstacle, the only thing keeping me from doing these things is my fear of failure, of rejection. It's my fear. You can't be afraid. You got to stop being afraid. Stop being afraid to fail. Stop being afraid for people to not laugh at your jokes. You got to stop being afraid. Stop being afraid to admit that you have a problem and that you need help. You have to stop being afraid of that. Stop being afraid to take your life back. Stop being afraid to give up vices that don't serve you. You got to stop being afraid. I'm going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to share with you guys some things that I have kind of taught myself to snap me out of this depressive state. All right? I'm Deron Harris. I'll be right back.
In sitcoms, when someone has a problem, they just blurt it out and move on.
Well, I lost my job and my parakeet is missing. How was your day?
But the real world is different. Managing life's challenges can be overwhelming. So, what do? We get support. The Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council have mental health resources available for you at loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. See how much further you can go when you take care of your mental health.
Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back to the show. Today I'm talking about depression and anxiety, mine particularly, and things I do to snap out of it. I suffer from major depressive disorder. So basically that means, ever so often I'm going to fall into a deep depressive state. And it comes and it goes, and it comes and it goes, and it comes and it goes. And I know that. And I have no choice but to be okay with it. But I'm getting to the point where I'm okay with it. It doesn't make me any less worthy of a person. You know, I mean, I'm just because I suffer from mental health issues doesn't make me less of a person. It just means that I've gone through some trauma that has, put me on a path that sometimes causes me depression. I know that. So what do I do about it? And there's a lot of stuff I can, people will tell you all the time, oh, go for a ride, call a friend, go out with your significant, so on and so forth. But there are other things that should be done. The most important thing that should be done is practice. Practice. I try and take myself into a place where there is no sound, no people, nobody. Now, you can hear I live in a pretty noisy environment, but I try and put myself where I can meditate to myself and try to clear my mind, which is hard to do. If you have ADHD, then you know what I'm talking about. But try to clear my mind and think of absolutely nothing, maybe colors, sounds. But try and clear my mind, because when I do that, when I try on purpose to clear my mind, whatever it was I was thinking about or that was causing me depression, I forget about, because I'm locked in on trying to clear my mind. And now, it's going to take a couple minutes, because you're going to sit there with your eyes closed while you meditate, and all kinds of stuff is going to pop in your head, but after a while, when you realize, when your brain, or when you start to realize why you're sitting there, it becomes easier to focus. It becomes easier to focus on nothing. And that's essentially what you have to do. You have to focus on absolutely nothing, because that's where everything comes from, is our intense focus on some of these things, on some of these issues. We have this intense focus that we have to shed, because that's what's causing a lot of our depression, a lot of our anxiety. We're hyper-focused on what the people across the way are doing from us, and that's causing me angst and anger because they won't do what I said, or I don't like the way that, you know what I'm saying? Focus on nothing. Start learning to focus on nothing. And then start slowly but surely. Again, start very slowly. I try to start slowly but surely, introducing positive thoughts. Now, they come in many forms. I try to stay away from, shallow things when I'm introducing positive thoughts. I don't do like butterflies and rainbows, and I don't do that. I try and think about things that are productive, things that would benefit me or my family or my friends or my situation. What could possibly, what I could possibly do. And I now what happens is bad things pop into your mind also, because that's just the way it is. But you maintain that sense of positive focus that you were just focused on. You maintain that sense of positive focus, and you can push past that. You can push right through those negative thoughts. I've been having lots of doubts. I'm trying to get a project started with my family. I've had lots of doubts, but I keep pushing. I keep pushing little bits at a time, little inches at a time. I'm in the process of trying to talk to the city about some rezoning for some property, and it is a lot, man. It's a lot going down, but it's little bits at a time, and little jumping through hoops and jump through that hoops, and how are we going to get this done and how are we going to get that done? Lots of it. But it keeps me focused on what this is, because this is something that I think that I can do. This is something that I think that I can pull together. And I have another motivation behind trying to pull it together. It's for my family. So that almost in a sense prevents me from thinking in a depressive state when I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to talk to the city about, how I'm going to propose my development idea to the city, etc. My ways, or my exercises are not foolproof. And they may not work for you. But you can develop your own. You just have to have a committed mind to trying to figure out things to help you get by your depressive state. Anybody out there that suffers from depression and has a hard time snapping out of that depressive state, start trying to come up with different things, different activities, different triggers, or different escape hatches to help you get out of that depressive state. When I worked in the restaurant business, one of the things that I used to do when things just got overwhelming for me is I would walk into the walk-in cooler and I would scream at the top of my lungs for 2 or 3 minutes. Just scream till I couldn't scream anymore, until my voice was hoarse. And then I'd step out of the walk-in and I felt a lot better. Because I needed to release a lot of stress and tension that was being put on me. That works. Find you a place. If you're at home, do it into a pillow. Take a pillow, put it over your face, and scream as hard as you can, as loud as you can. Scream and let it all out. Scream. Shadow box. Throw your hands and flail them around in the air. Exert some energy. Be mad. Be physically angry by yourself. And when you've exerted that energy, you'll return to a state where you are winding yourself down, because you can't stay at that state for too long. You can't stay at that intensity level for too long. If you're angry, it's all right it's all right. People get angry. It's how you deal with that anger. You know what I'm saying? So anybody out there that suffers from depression and anxiety, there are lots of resources out there for you to get help. I am in the process of looking for a therapist again, like I said, and I recommend therapy for anyone that might be thinking about it as an option. There are many programs. There's BetterHelp out there. You can get on BetterHelp.com and find a therapist. There's all kinds of other options. If you have health insurance, I think some health insurance, I believe Cigna. If you have Cigna insurance, you can find a therapist through Cigna. And trust me, you will be glad. But you have to take that first step, and you got to realize that nobody is judging you. Nobody is judging you. This is something that you have to do for yourself, and you really shouldn't be concerned about what other people think anyway. You should be most concerned about how you feel, because that's how I feel. The thing that I care about the most is how I feel. That's what I care about the absolute most. Do I feel good? That's what I care about the absolute most, is do I feel good? And if not, how can I make myself feel better? And as long as you have that mentality in your head, you cannot go wrong. You'll be able to snap yourself out of these depressive states. All right, folks? So I think that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Deron Harris Podcast. Like I said, anybody that suffers from depression or anxiety, you can DM me on any of my social media platforms, and we can sit and chop it up or whatever, and we can help each other get through it. you can log on to the show. If you want to be a guest and talk about some things and get some things off your chest, I'm that guy, man. I want to hear from you, because the last thing I want is for people to be so depressed or in that state for so long that they feel that they are not needed or it's not worth being around. So whatever I can do to help you out, just say the word and I'm here. All right. I want to thank my parents for giving me my mouthpiece. But a lot of my depression is because of that shit. But I want to thank my wife, because she is, without a doubt, the greatest support system that I've ever had in my life. And I am thankful to her and God every single day that I met her. And I got to stay healthy so that I can be around for her much longer, because she is the light of my life. I want to thank my best friend and show producer, Jesse Yandel. Me and him, we talk about this type of stuff a lot. And we sit on the phone and we cry, and I get mad and angry, and he helps me, stay on a positive path. And I am super grateful for that. Thanks, Gentry, for giving me the opportunity to share my podcast on this platform. I do appreciate it, because it does help me so much. It's a huge help, man. And I don't know if you ever listened to my podcast this far in, but if you do, man, I do really appreciate it, man. And I really do. And lastly, man, I want to thank all of you guys out there, because you guys are therapy, man. You guys are therapy to me. I make this a priority every single week to sit down and check in with everybody. I do this on purpose every single week, to sit down and check in with everybody. I make it a priority because I need it. All right? And I want to say thank you for everybody who's listened to me. Everybody who's listened to me get things off of my chest, because that's essentially what was today. That was today's podcast. Is I was feeling defeated because I just couldn't. I was having a hard time finding a topic. I was, having a hard time, even getting ramped up to do it. And, I because of people who listen to my show, I forced myself to try and get something done. But at the same time, I opened myself up to talk about things that are personal to me, and that may be personal to somebody else. So anything that I said today that is helpful to you, please use. If you need some other time to talk, like I said before, I'm always willing to talk. So, all right, folks, until next week, I'm Deron Harris. Peace.
You've been listening to the Deron Harris Podcast. Subscribe to the show, give a good rating, and everything you need to know is at DeronHarris.com.